Welcome back to Project Independence and You here at WCWP.org, 88.1 FM. We were just speaking with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Long Island, and what a wonderful treat, what an incredible organization. And they do wonderful things on Long Island. I mean, it was just the hour, of course, went way too fast. So here we are now with the Kristina Lou Hour, also Talk of the Town. And we're just going to be talking about some stuff that's going on in the town. And also, if we have a special guest pop in, we'll be talking with that guest. So Kristina, what is going on?
Well, I'm just, recovering from how wonderful that first hour was. I mean, it really flew by. We say that every week, but this week really, it was just such an amazing, I mean, Big Brother, Big Sisters in general is an amazing organization. And then to just really get to see and hear, obviously people on the radio are just hearing it, but on Zoom, watching the relationship between Drew and Diamond, who are an example of a big and a little, you could just see how they interacted and looked at each other, and just the relationship they had was so amazing. And it was just, it was just, it gave you all the Good Friday feels, you walked away feeling good.
That's the thing that always strikes me when we have people on like Big Brothers and a lot of other organizations, is that the good stuff is overlooked so often about what's going on in this world. People like this group, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and so many other organizations, the press doesn't go to them, and that's a shame, because I think we have a lot more positive things going on than we do negative. And I thought that hour was great for that reason too. It just emphasizes positive and what people,
Yeah, and I was going to say, Otto, you brought up that parallel, with COVID and how they kind of changed the way that they were, matching, and how they were entertaining and, getting out there with the matches, and how like Project Independence also did that too. We kind of grew right away. We had to, with technology and Zoom and how it actually helped a lot of people become a little bit more savvy, and they were able to continue relationships and reach out to people that maybe otherwise wouldn't have access to, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or Project Independence. So it was kind of cool to kind of see that there's probably a ton of agencies out there that did exactly what we did. I mean, I think Project Independence is always groundbreaking. But I mean, really, everybody had to come up on, technology to stay in contact, to continue with business. And like you were saying too, Otto, that, some good things did come out of COVID. We did learn a lot, and a lot of the things that we learned, we're going to continue, keeping a lot of programming.
I mean, the technology was there, but we weren't really applying it. And we were forced to use it. Basically, is what it comes down to. COVID forced it to happen.
Right.
You didn't have to do it. You could have sat in your shell somewhere and not do it, but it just changed the world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
And Otto, you've always been a proponent of technology for seniors. You're on a committee to kind of help implement technology. And we have a lot of programming to support that. But this kind of just pushed us way up, it just kind of moved it along at like hyper speed. And, so how are you feeling about that, Otto? I mean, the fact that was I don't want to say it was a pet peeve of yours, but from almost the day we met, you really, really fostered the importance of technology in the lives of our seniors.
I would say in my life, I sold computers in 1969. All right. So I have been forced to adapt to technology because of my work, what I did for a living. So I've gone with the flow throughout. I was involved with a lot of things right in the beginning. And I always saw that seniors are missing the boat. A lot of seniors over time were fighting technology. They wanted to still use the 3x5 card. They still wanted to do whatever. And it used to get me. I'd say, you have to change. You got to adapt. And I think the big thing that I was happy to see, unfortunately, out of this COVID negative, is that seniors did adapt. They were forced to, but many, many seniors adapted. And I think that was a good thing. And I think it opened their eyes to the fact that technology is, if used properly, a good thing. And,
Right.
you know,
Well, we have a wonderful guest and a true supporter and advocate of Project Independence and all of Long Island seniors. And I'm sure he would have been really interested to hear the conversation we started was about how COVID kind of forced technology into the lives of seniors who maybe otherwise would not have used technology. So it was kind of an interesting conversation. So welcome, Congressman Tom Suozzi. How are you?
Great, wonderful. Thanks so much for having me on, Rebecca.
Good
Hello there,
morning.
Otto. How are you?
good, good.
Kristina, nice to see you.
Hello.
Yeah, I think the technology's had a big impact on all of us. I mean, not just seniors. I mean, we're all using Zoom now much more than ever before. It's really remarkable. Telehealth is one of the great benefits to society that's taken off. You know, we take it for granted here on Long Island that it's pretty easy to go to a doctor, but think of those rural parts of the country where you have to drive 2 hours to go to see a doctor. And telehealth and telemedicine is a humongous change to help people. And that'll help people throughout the world, quite frankly, as telehealth becomes more developed in different areas where you could have local practitioners who may not be physicians, could have equipment, but you could have the doctor available over a device like Zoom. So there's all kinds of other technological changes. But with all these wonderful things comes the downside. We're moving so quickly with technology that we haven't figured out how it's affecting our lives yet. How social media is affecting us, how Zoom is affecting us, how, social media is used by the makers, the people that do great things, but it's also used by the breakers, the people that are trying to tear us apart. Anyway, Rebecca, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I mean, yeah, everything you have just discussed, we do so many programs around that, certainly, with seniors, because we're Project Independent, so, scammers are always preying on seniors. And, we do implement, we have talked so much about getting technology into the homes of our seniors and how wonderful it was. And, this was years ago. And then all of a sudden we're telling them, don't touch links, don't do this. So there's a lot of mixed messages. So you know what, it's really, truly wonderful. And the bad stuff is there too. And it's always going to be there. We just have to be careful. But we would love to hear about all the things going on in Congress and in DC. Your office sent us a list of everything that you're working on and doing, and it would be almost impossible to go through that list. So you're doing a lot. But I know that we really want to hear about the repeal of the SALT cap, and maybe you can explain a little bit what that means, and we just would like to hear about that.
Okay, well, that's a very big issue on Long Island. Everybody knows that state and local taxes are very high on Long Island. We have high state taxes, which are our income taxes that we pay, and we have high local taxes, which are the property taxes we pay. And since the beginning of the federal tax code, actually goes back to the Civil War under Abraham Lincoln, but then the modern tax code was formed in like 1913 or something like that. When they set up the tax code for the federal government, there was a big debate in our country where mayors and governors and local officials said, listen, don't mess with what we're doing locally. We don't want to give all this power to the federal government. They said, no. We're going to have a state and local tax deduction. It would be the first deduction they ever gave in the country, so that whatever income you make, you can deduct your state and local taxes first, and then you would be taxed on the rest of your income. And the idea is we didn't want the long arm of the federal government coming in and reaching in and telling our state and local governments what to do. We didn't want to hinder what they were doing, because the state and local governments are the laboratories of democracy, where they try different things to see who's got the best ideas how to fix the problems. Well, that was in place for 100 years. And then in 2017, after really decades of effort by the conservative movement in our country, they said, let's cap, they want to eliminate it altogether. Let's cap the state and local taxes you can deduct. They capped it at $10,000. Well, anybody who owns a home on Long Island knows that your state and local taxes are a lot more than $10,000 a year. Your property taxes are $10,000 a year, or just your school taxes are $10,000 a year. Then you've got your local taxes. And so this was an effort by then President Trump and the Republicans to say, listen, we want to stop those progressive states from being quite so progressive. And the way to do that is to cap their deduction for state and local taxes. We need to make it less attractive to live in those states. And we know how difficult it is already. People leave our area all the time. When they retire, they'll move to North Carolina or South Carolina, or they'll move down to Florida, because the taxes are lower. Why are the taxes lower in those places? Well, they don't pay their teachers very much money. They don't have teachers unions. Florida, they don't have that many sewers. They have a problem with red tide in Florida because there's too much nitrogen leaching out into the Gulf of Mexico and the ocean. So they don't really have that much infrastructure that way. They don't have a mass transit system. New York City has the lowest carbon footprint per capita of any place in the United States of America, in the world, because there's so many people there, but nobody drives. They all take mass transit. They don't regulate their utilities. In Texas, it got cold out and their whole utility system went down. We have the lowest rate of uninsured children in the country in New York State. They don't insure their children in Texas and Florida. They didn't opt into the Affordable Care Act. So they don't insure their children. So all these different things that we do in New York State, it's more expensive here. Just costs more money. And the state and local tax deduction was a very big part of our lives. Now, the people that are against the state and local tax deduction that I am fighting to get back will say, oh, it's only for rich people. It's only for rich people. I said, well, in New York State, if you're an electrician and a civil servant in a household, you're making $150,000 a year. That's considered the top 20% of the incomes in the United States of America. So you make $150,000 on Long Island, you're middle class. You're not rich. You're okay. You're middle class. $150,000 though in Oklahoma, you're on top of the world. You got a brand new house with a gated community with granite countertops and an in-home movie theater, and you belong to the country club. And the same thing in Iowa and North Dakota. And so they look at people making $150,000 where we live in their household, and they say, boy, you're so rich. We're not going to bail out the rich. Then we've got really rich people who we don't want moving out of New York. Goldman Sachs just did a report, said 5% of the people that make $10 million or more a year left New York and went to Florida. Well, when they leave and they move to Florida, we lose that income for our state and local governments. Who gets left behind holding the bag? The moderate and low income people that are here, that stay, that don't want to move, can't move, don't want to move, and they don't want to see their taxes go up, certainly, and they don't want to see their services go down. So we got a big problem. So everybody says, oh, the blue states, the Democrats. Well, that's right. New York, California, they've been working on climate change for 20 years. In Washington, we're still debating whether it's a hoax or not. We are doing things in our state and local governments in the blue states that cost more money. We think it gives us a better quality of life, but we built up this system based upon having a state and local tax deduction. So I've said very clearly that I support the president. I was the first.
We actually have to take a quick break. I'm so sorry. Can we pick up right where we're leaving off?
Sure, of course.
We'll be right back with Project Independence in You, and we're here speaking with Congressman Tom Suozzi. We'll be right back.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast, and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. You know, those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Senior Talk Radio at WCWP.org. 88.1 FM, and also their great app is WCWP Radio, and that just works as soon as you sign on. So we're speaking with Congressman Tom Suozzi, and before the break, I had to interrupt you to take a quick break. So if you want to just pick up where you left off.
So I was talking about the state and local tax deduction, and the president has come out with these very big and bold initiatives. Which I think he's done a fantastic job already because he understands the policy, he understands the politics, he understands the people, he knows how to get things done. And I was the first member of the House of Representatives to publicly endorse him when he first announced that he was running for president. He announced at 7 in the morning. I endorsed him at 7:20 in the morning. So I've always supported Biden, but even he's impressing me as far as how far he's going. And he's trying to do these big, bold initiatives. And I support the president, but I've made it very clear that if you want to change the tax code, which I support raising the corporate tax, I support raising the highest rate back to where it was from 37 back to 39.6. I support a lot of what he's proposing, not every single thing, but most of what he wants to do, especially the big initiatives he has. I support the president, but I will not vote for a change in the tax code unless it includes the restoration of the state and local tax deduction. So I've said very clearly, no SALT, no deal. And I've got a bunch of other Democratic colleagues that have joined up with me in this effort. It was a very strong letter written from the New York Democratic delegation. 17 of the 19 Democrats wrote a letter to the speaker and the majority leader saying, no SALT, no deal. Well, they didn't say that as quite plainly as that, but they said, we will not hesitate to vote against any package that doesn't include a fix of the state and local tax deduction. So this is a big fight we're going through now. If there is a big deal to be done, it's going to include SALT. If we do a smaller package of a compromise, which I'm also working on that, I'm the vice chairman of the Problem Solvers Caucus, 29 Democrats, 29 Republicans. We're trying to actually do a bipartisan compromise that wouldn't involve any changes in the tax code. So I wouldn't be able to do my no SALT, no deal pledge, but we could do some of the infrastructure stuff. So that'll be getting more interesting over the next a week or so. So I know there are other topics you wanted to discuss, but I'll talk about anything you want.
Well, I think a lot of people, I read that you have visited the border in Texas, and a lot of people, obviously, that whole process. I tried to bone up on that topic, and I realized that it's impossible to bone up on that topic, immigration. And I looked and I see things like Migration Protection Protocol, Title 42 expulsions, zero tolerance policy, public charge policy. I think a lot of people, including myself, looked at this whole thing and thought, well, it's pretty easy. Why can't you just put a system in place? I would just like to get your perspective on what the chances are of actually being able to get a system in place that's manageable. That's part of it. And then the other part of it is the countries that the people obviously have a desperate need. You see that on television. I'm sure you saw it in person. They're running from gangs and poverty and fear and ways of life that none of us would want to live under. So I empathize with the fact that I understand them wanting to come here. But how does this all come about? It seems so complicated. The more I read about it, the more complicated it gets. Is there really a way? Is there light at the end of the tunnel, and how do you see it happening?
Well, let me start with some very basic things, Otto, is that, every problem we face in the country is complicated. If it was easy, somebody would have done it already. Every problem is complicated, and you can't solve complicated problems in an environment of fear and anger with everybody just yelling at each other. It's just impossible. You can never get to the conversation to figure out the details if everybody's just yelling at each other and tweeting and saying outlandish things. You need people of goodwill that may disagree with each other, but they're people of goodwill to sit down across from each other and try and negotiate where they can find agreement. And that's what I try to do in the Problem Solvers group. And there are a lot of areas where I can find common ground with my Republican colleagues and our Democratic colleagues that we can move forward on things. It's very doable. As complicated as it is, it's very doable. But with every problem we face, whether it's immigration or climate or guns or taxes or whatever the issue may be, healthcare, there are people that want to keep the status quo. They like the status quo because they're doing well out with the status quo. They don't want it to change. So they like this whole idea of everybody chopping each other's head off instead of sitting down and trying to negotiate with each other. So that's what we're fighting against all the time, is getting reasonable people to just sit down and work with each other. Now, immigration, I'm very passionate about this issue. My father was born in Italy, came to the United States as a young boy, lived a great American success story. I've been dealing with the issue of newcomers from Central and South America in my hometown of Glen Cove back to when I was mayor of Glen Cove in 1994. This issue was roiling, people gathering on the street corners, illegal housing. And I said, listen, let's rely on some basic fundamental American principles. Number one is all men and women are created equal. It's not that all men and women with a green card are created equal, or all men and women with a passport are created equal. Every human being should be treated with human respect and dignity. But we got to follow the rules. So when I was mayor, I said, the rules are locally, you can't live in illegal housing, you can't litter, you can't drink in public, you can't commit crime. But if you follow the rules locally, we're going to help you live the American dream. And I set up the first day worker gathering spot, became an indoor site anywhere on the East Coast of the United States of America, where people could gather for work in the morning. If they got picked up and hired, if they didn't get paid, there'd be somebody from Catholic Charities to advocate for them to make sure they got paid. If they didn't get hired, they could stay behind and learn a job skill from La Forza Unita, or learn how to speak English, or learn about the local community. That was 1994. It's not a new problem. It's been going on since the 80s. It's been going on since the Iran-Contra stuff going on in the death squads and civil war down in El Salvador. So I've looked at this a lot. This is a very long, detailed thing I have for you, but I got to figure out how to make it shorter for your radio show. Right, from 1870 to 1920 in the United States of America, 50-year period, 1870 to 1920, 15% approximately of the population was foreign born. We changed the laws dramatically in the 1920s to decrease immigration. We went through the Depression. We went through World War II. We had the baby boom. By the next 50-year period, 1920 to 1970, the foreign born population in America was only 5% of the population. Most of them were Italians. From 1970 to 2020, the next 50-year period, it went back to 15%. If you included all the foreign-born population that were here legally and all the foreign-born population that came here without the proper process, it's about back to 15%. I think America can handle 15%. And we should have a plan going forward as to how to keep a population of about 15% of our population being foreign-born. Now, there's about 1 million people a year that can enter the United States of America legally. The biggest chunk of those people come in because they're related to somebody who's already here already. That's about 700,000 people. There's a very small group of people that are refugees from other countries. It's less than, under Trump, he put it down to like 10,000. It's legally and historically, it could go up to over 100,000, 125,000. It's about 50,000 that could come in legally on what's called the visa lottery program, which is to let people in based on a lottery, based upon if your country's had less than 50,000 people come in over the past 10 years. And that's often a lot of people from Africa and other countries that we've never really had that much immigration from. But that's only 50,000 people a year. There's millions, tens of millions of people on that list. Refugees, there's 60 million refugees in the world. There's millions of people trying to get in. We did 15,000 people under Trump. It's Biden's up to 60, going to do 60,000, may go back to 100,000. Then we've got about another, I forget the number now. I think it's about another 100,000 people that could come in based upon their skills. There are 20 million people on the list that want to come to America based upon their skills. We let 100,000 in. So that's the legal immigration, 1 million people a year. Tens of millions of people want to come in that way. We let about 1 million in a year, most of them based upon being related to somebody who's here already. Then we have illegal immigration into the country, all the stuff going on the southern border that you hear about. Now, it's not just the southern border. Most of the people here illegally or not following the proper process are people that came here on a student or a work visa, and then when the visa expired, they stayed. That's most of the people are here undocumented from all over the world. People from the southern border, it's not from Mexico anymore, even though Mexico is one of the largest foreign-born populations in America. It's actually gone down over the years. A lot of people have gone back to Mexico because there's been more economic opportunity in Mexico. Most of the people are coming from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, where their lifestyle is horrific. That's where Vice President Kamala Harris just was down in Guatemala. There's a lot of corruption down there. There's a lot of violence. a lot of poverty. We should be trying to figure out how, we're trying to say we don't want to do all this business with China anymore. China's, cheats. They steal our intellectual property. They have 1 million people in forced labor camps, the Uyghurs. They are violating the rights of the students and the protesters in Hong Kong. The Chinese are just, they're bad actors and they're cheating on the economic stuff. Well, if we want to do low cost produced goods, we should be doing it in the Northern Triangle of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras instead. And then we could still get the cheap goods, but we could actually improve the quality of life in that country in the process, and less people would immigrate here. We need to enforce our border. I'm all for enforcing the border. We should enforce the border. But it's a long border. It's 2,000 miles. There are about 30 or 40 different spots you can come across legally. At those spots, I've been to those facilities. They're old. Were built in the 1950s, maybe fixed up in the 80s. You can only get 40 people through them a day, 50 people at the most in each facility. There are thousands of people that are trying to come in. If you can only process 30, 40, 50 people. Remember the movie Casablanca, Otto? Remember when Inspector Renault, who got the pass? The guy that we try to get the woman to sleep with him, or the guy that paid him off, or that's how he got the pass. That's what's happening with people trying to come across our border in Mexico. That
was Humphrey Bogart?
Yeah. So who are the 30 or 40 people that get to be chosen to come through from Mexico every day? Well, as a result, thousands of people cross into the country illegally because they can't go through the normal process, because they can't handle the volume of the process. And most of the people that go through the process, including those ones that come illegally and go through our process, 80% are sent back. So most people don't qualify. They don't qualify to come to America, even if they are in tough situations. You can only qualify for asylum as a refugee under very specific criteria. So we need to do a couple things. We need to figure out how to get these people that live in our country now and have been living here for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, have been living here, have been working, have been sometimes paying taxes because they got phony documentation, sometimes legitimate documentation. How can we get these children, the DACA recipients, the dreamers who came here when they were under 18 years of age, how can we give them a path to citizenship? People that we were invited here under the temporary protective status. There's about 1.9 million DACA recipients. That means people came when they were under 18, their parents brought them, no fault of their own. They've been through school, they graduated high school, they're either in college, they have a full-time job for 3 years, or they're in the US military. Let's give them a path to citizenship. There's 400,000 people that we invited here after some natural disaster in their country. So that's 2.3 million people. And then we got a bunch of their relatives. We don't have to give them a path to citizenship, but if they haven't broken any other rules, let's give them a way to be here legally, to continue to be here legally without living in an anxiety. As part of the deal, help to legalize these people, some with path to citizenship, like the young people that came, and the temporary protective status that we invited, as well as their family members, not a path to citizenship, but be here legally, not necessarily giving them the rights of citizenship, definitely not giving them the rights of citizenship. In return for doing that, we'll do a lot more on enforcement. Let's do more enforcement. I'm all for doing enforcement. People should be following the rules. My big idea, let's create an Ellis Island on the southern border of the United States of America. Let's create a huge processing center where people can come in, they can be checked for their medical conditions, they can be processed, they can be taught about America.
I hate to interrupt, but we do have to take a break. You're more than welcome to stay and continue, or if you can, I know your time is really tight. We'd love to have you come back very soon and continue on this topic. Otherwise, we want to thank you so much for being on the show, but maybe Congressman Suozzi will stay around and finish up what we've been talking about. We'll be right back with Project Independence in You.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
So welcome back to Project Independence and You here at WCWP.org. We have been speaking with Congressman Tom Suozzi, who has been generous enough to give us a few more minutes of his time. He is on a tight schedule, but we were just talking about a really important topic. And go ahead, Tom.
Well, listen, Rebecca, I can only stand for a few more minutes, but I want to thank you again. And the bottom line with all the issues, whether it's the state and local tax deduction, whether it's the president's big infrastructure plans, whether it's immigration, we need people to work together with each other in this country. We need Democrats and Republicans to stop pandering to their base and just trying to please the extremes on each side, the far right and the far left, and work together to actually solve the problems for the people. Most people are just normal people who say, listen, why can't you just work it out? Can't you just sit down and work with each other and get this done and try and help the people? That's what I try and do every single day, is to try and get things done. So I focus on local things like getting money for the Long Island Sound. Long Island Sound is getting better all the time. We're going to see, it was like $4 million a year we had when I first got into office. This year, the president put in his budget at our request, I'm the co-chair of the Long Island Sound Caucus, $40 million. I just got a bunch of money in to get the Army Corps of Engineers to knock down derelict buildings at the Northport VA and enhance the Northport Veterans Administration. I'm working on the Merchant Marine Academy over in Kings Point on the North Hempstead Peninsula, that to try and make that back into one of the jewels of the service academies in the United States of America. I got record funding for the Helen Keller Foundation, which is over in Sands Point. And it's really just a spectacular facility that helps people that are both deaf and blind, if you can imagine what that must be like to live that way. So I'm always working to just try and bring things back locally, to clean up the pollution at the Bethpage Navy Grumman Plume, to help my local constituents with issues of getting the money from the pandemic, whether it be their unemployment insurance or their stimulus check, or helping people with their visa issues and passports, and just trying to be a good local servant. So it's a great honor to serve in this position, especially during this very difficult time in history. It's a great responsibility, and I'm fortunate that the people have supported me and allowed me to do this job. I've devoted my life to public service, and I'm every day I'm more and more happy that I have, because I feel like I'm getting more and more prepared for the challenges that we face during this very difficult time in our history. And I'll always try and work to try and listen to what the people in my district want, and try and reflect what their concerns are. But thanks so much for having me on, and please send my best wishes to John Ryan. I'm going to say a prayer for him right when I get off this call, because he's such a good guy, and I know he's been going through some tough times.
Thank you so much, Congressman Tom Suozzi. You're a true friend to us all, and we look forward to having you back on the show. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Otto.
Thank
you. What a show.
What a show. My goodness.
We're just like getting so much information. My brain is like on overload. It's really,
Kristina,
it's really
you
wonderful.
pulled together amazing guests. I mean, it's really incredible information, and it was really a great show. I'm kind of like, there's so much information and research, and you just answer us. It's great. It's like I
got the same thing.
She hands us like things that emails and.
Guys, I just want to keep you prepared.
It's only 35 pages, I think.
I know, right? It was quite the record low, but I have to say it was just absolutely wonderful. And, clearly our common theme, we had, two very different things, two very different topics, obviously, but, both obviously big brothers, big sisters, and Congressman Suozzi are very passionate about what they're doing. And that certainly comes through in the interview. And I think that's my favorite part of this radio program, is having, people who are passionate. That's who you want to listen to, and it's just, it's nice to see. And you guys, of course, are doing a fabulous job, I must say, interviewing.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but what Tom said, it seems so clear and so obvious, that people just have to be able to sit and work it out.
Right.
Okay, there are people on the right and people on the left.
Yeah.
But there's like 90% of the people that aren't. They're squashed in the middle and being controlled by the people who go from one extreme to the other. And we got to start thinking about the normal person in this deal.
No, it's so right. And I know, Otto, we've had these conversations, numerous times, and it's unfortunate because it is a time when it seems like every issue, every topic are, all that's advertised, but listen, this is the media and this could be a whole bigger conversation. That's what's really shown, and it's like, if you don't fit in either one of these boxes, somehow you got to choose a side, so it's like, you can't have that ability to, just kind of make your own thing. And I think that it really does sound simple at its core. If people would just sit down and talk and listen to each other, so much is just attacking on either side. And it's just, it's certainly not getting anyone anywhere.
I liked how, Congressman Suozzi gave us so much history.
Yes,
it's not just what it looks like today. How did we get here? I mean, I think he said the modern tax code was 1910. I mean, how do you even say modern, with that? I think that was the year. So it's like, to kind of understand that, and that's still how we kind of, that's our model for today.
Right.
People need to to realize that it's not just, oh, we're raising taxes or we're cutting taxes or we're doing this. It's really the whole, what led up to all of this.
Yeah, right. There's like a back history, right? That's, I think everyone takes everything for face value, and everyone's an expert on everything, nowadays, and everyone's got their, instead of really knowing, the back history of things.
Well, if you relate technology as an example to the taxes in 1910, all right, taxes in 1910 were done with a straight pen with an inkwell on a piece of paper that was this big, all right,
with a candle.
All right, yeah, and the tax that exists today, I get a stack and I have like nothing. I get a stack of paper like that. And I'm thinking, well, how would the accountant in 1910 handle these forms? Now he'd be there with 14 candles just for my return, my tax return.
Yeah.
Everything got so complicated. I mean, you make money and you pay taxes. And then there's 4,000 ripples in between. And there are some people that really know how to take advantage of the ripples.
Yeah.
And, it just got very cumbersome.
Yeah.
Like everything else. It just evolved over time, like the immigration thing. It evolved over time. Like Tom said, in the 20s, it was simple. Now in the 20s again, except it's a different 20s, it's not simple. It's very complicated.
And everything's antiquated. There's, what did he say, 40 entry sites along the southern border, and they only let 40 people in a day. I mean, how antiquated is that? It makes no sense. But, I didn't know that before that.
Of course.
But I didn't know only, so this is information that, people need to really kind of understand what systems are in place, and that they're not modern. They're not accommodating what, needs to be accommodated.
And they all evolved. All these little things that I mentioned, I have no idea what they are. MPP, Title 42 expulsions. There's all kinds of things I read. I'm saying, forget it.
It is, because it's overwhelming.
Well, that's why they have attorneys now that are immigration, lawyers, attorneys. They have to know all these rules.
Right. I mean, Tom's great then for this, because he really has a fundamental understanding. I mean, he just has all the information. So, I mean, you hope you put somebody in to represent you. You vote for the people that are representing what you believe in, and hopefully they're prepared to do what they have to do.
And it shouldn't just be based on the party, to be blunt about it.
No.
It should be based on that person, their ability. And like he said, there's 29, I think, Republicans, 29 Democrats in that group that he's in.
Yep.
That's the way it ought to be. There ought
problem
to be
solving.
Yeah, right. The problem solving caucus or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
it was certainly informative, guys. And I have to say, I want to let people know that next week we have a repeat show because we are closed for Juneteenth. But I want to give a little overview of the awesome shows that are going to be coming up. On June 25th, we're going to have Kathleen Ott, who is from the Administration from Community Living. She's going to be talking about just all their wonderful programs, and their theme, Older Americans Month, was just last month. and it was Communities of Strength. So we're going to do a little bit of talking about that. On July 2nd, we have on Mike Kelly, who is the executive director over at SWAMA and the commissioner. And we are going to learn all about the recycling programs of North Hempstead that we've talked about numerous times on the show, trying to understand all the ins and outs of all that. And July 9th, we have on the Safe Center, who's going to talk about elder abuse. And July 23rd, fire safety for seniors. And July 30th, we're going to have some speech pathology in this world with masks and children.
Okay, we will be right back after taking a quick break.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You. I'm Rebecca Miller. I'm your guest host for today's show, along with co-host Otto Lohse and Kristina Liu, the radio show producer extraordinaire. So I can't believe it's the last segment of the show. It went so fast. Over break, we were just talking about how passionate our guests were. I mean, you know, from big brothers, big sisters, and they're just, each guest was so dynamic and passionate about what they do and their kind of role with the organization. And then, of course, Congressman Suozzi is so passionate about what he does. So it was a good show. Kristina, you do know what you're doing. So going into
that's what I like to hear. And I just want to
Amazing.
remind everyone again that if you miss any of our shows, obviously not everyone could just be sitting around doing nothing and immediately hit that live button. But it is going to be aired on North Hempstead TV. It's usually aired at 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. So if you have Cablevision, it's channel 18 or 63, and on Verizon Fios, it's channel 46. You can go to the North Hempstead. It's mynhtv.com, and you can get the actual up-to-date schedule for every day because that changes. And you could also catch it on our Project Independence website, and then you could watch the video also on the WCWP YouTube page. So we have you completely covered, and on North Shore TV if you have access to that too. So we are everywhere now, but these are segments that are really great. And like I said, every week it's so exciting because I've been getting so many phone calls of people who have randomly caught episodes on North Hempstead TV. So it's really nice to get those requests in now. And it's a lot of times people asking for more information on the program. And then we just start talking. And then those people can sometimes be referred over to our social workers and nurses, which is really cool because then they kind of just get connected into the program. So it's stuff like that makes it all worthwhile.
Do you keep notes on those calls? I'd be curious as to,
I probably have them somewhere. Yeah. And like, they're just, it's a lot. Just last week, I got a random phone call from someone who wanted to know about one of the lawyers we had on, and that was a while ago. So they must have just been thinking about it. And then like, we just organically started, she was asking me about just different programs that PI has, so it really is, I know we say this every week, but it's just nice to see that this TV format with Zoom really opened up the world, and like the bottom line is, look, we were able to have Congressman Suozzi on. We necessarily wouldn't be able to get him into the studio based on scheduling and whatnot. So having this available, people from wherever they are able to come in and give an amazing interview. So
excellent
it's really
point there, Kristina.
Yeah, it's really a good thing. I think about that all the time, and especially, makes my life a little easier sometimes when there's a cancellation or something, or someone's running late. There's a lot less cancellations, I should say, via Zoom because people are.
What about last week? We had Wayne Wink from Albany,
right?
Co-host. He was our Otto last week.
Yeah, it's really.
Does Wayne know that?
Yes, we were laughing with Wayne. We said because he did quite a job. Otto, you would be proud. Wayne was very prepared for the show. He had all kinds of questions and clearly read the information that I sent over, which was very nice.
You know what's weird is when you, like you said, I don't actually visualize people listening to this show.
Mhm.
All right. To me, it's like we're just having a conversation. I see you two on the screen, and that's about where it ends, not realizing that
Yeah.
actually there are people that actually might be, like I always joke that there were 46 people that listened to the show. I have no idea. It could be 43 for all
Yeah,
I
no,
know.
it's actually, and it's more than, because there's guests that we have on the program, listen, who now they are able to share, and because we have video, they're sharing the YouTube link, and all these guests, I mean, they're constantly asking me for all the information so they can share it on their social media, so these are the perks of technology and social media, that you're able to do all these wonderful things, and it's exciting and it's great information. And listen, the fact that it's archived in all these different ways, you're able to kind of get in touch with it. So it's actually fabulous, and it makes my my job great.
Do you ever watch the shows?
Yes. Oh yeah,
Do
all
you?
the time.
Do you?
Yeah, I'll put it on at work, when I'm working my desk, because I always need tons of stimulation all the time. God forbid I'm ever in like silence. And I love watching it because it's nice. My family watches it. Listen, I could speak, my whole family constantly is tuning in to the show all the time. So it's
The replays, like on channel whatever.
'cause I have to give a shout out to Dan Cox, who does a fabulous job with the edits of our radio program. And it's great because a lot of times he'll put their contact information, the guests we had on, and whatnot. So it's great, and it's exciting stuff, guys. So that's a perk that came out of this whole world of COVID. I also want to, I can't believe we only have like a few minutes left. Next Monday, we have a joint advisory committee, and I want to let people know it's via Zoom. So if you are interested in being part of it, you could be as quiet as you want. You don't need to have a video feature. You can also call in via Zoom, which I think is a great feature, right, Beck? I mean, we have so many people that call in to our advisory committees and participate just as much as
Yes.
the people who have video. So it's a really nice thing. And I mean, there's a lot of people. I think there was like last advisory, there was like 60 something people on the call. And this week, so it's at 10 o'clock on Monday. If
This
you are
Monday?
interested.
This
Yes,
Monday?
this
I don't
Monday.
have that. I don't have that.
Well, you better check your emails, Otto, because I sent out the reminders just yesterday with the link.
Yesterday.
Yes. So I know you were busy preparing for this radio program, but it's
so
and
Monday,
we're having
June 14th.
June 14th. Yep, June 14th at 10 a.m. And
Flag Day.
Monday, yeah, and we're going to have on actually the woman who's going to be on the radio program from the Safe Center, Stephanie, who is going to be talking about elder abuse. And she is going to be promoting, there's a great conference that the Safe Center is going to be doing on June 15th. That is virtual too. And if I could find it in this stack of papers, we'll be in business. So that is for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It's a virtual conference via Zoom. It's from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. It's free for attendees. If you are interested in registering, you could give us a call over at 311 or 869-6311, and we can give you the link for that, because it's there's going to be a lot of wonderful speakers. And it's certainly a topic, that I think is important and not talked about enough, frankly. So she will be doing a quick little presentation at our advisory. And then a couple of weeks later, we're going to have her on the radio program where we could really dive into it. So I love kind of piggybacking off, the advisory committees, because you just get a short little glimpse, and then we get to do a more in-depth kind of interview. So
I did not get your email, by the way. I just looked.
Otto didn't get your email?
No.
I don't know. I mean, people have been responding to it, so we'll double check. I can resend it to you.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to say, to kind of go back a little bit about how how Zoom has kind of helped bring people in that otherwise we are in Albany. Also, the supervisor has been on every single Project Independence advisory meeting.
Amazing.
No matter where she is. So, it used to be, well, she had a meeting in Manhasset, and we had our Westbury Call Place advisory. There was no way she could make it or get there on time.
Absolutely.
And it's always like a rush deal, and she always liked to be at all the advisories. So since Project Independence started doing PI advisory. She's been, I believe, at every single
Yeah.
PI advisory meeting. And sometimes we had 2 a week when we first started. We were trying to keep on a similar schedule to what we would normally do in person. So we've combined a lot of them now, which seems to be working out wonderfully.
Yeah, that's really nice. You know, it gives a good discussion. You know, and Supervisor Bosworth, it's great having her on. And a lot of the council people come on. And, you know, I laugh because, you know, via Zoom too. I mean, especially having, you know, County Executive Laura Curran on the program too. A lot, you know, they're in the car and they're Zooming, you know, no matter where anyone is, they'll buzz right into, you know, the conversation, which I think is really wonderful. So
Yeah.
I encourage people to check it.
Do you visualize live advisory committee meetings like in the September timeframe?
Yeah, I mean, look, listen, we're going to play it by ear. Everything is changing. We'll see.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, listen, we're going to have a hybrid kind of system going forward. I would imagine things, you know, to be, I mean, our Blankets of Love group just had its first in-person meeting last week, or this week, excuse me. And some people aren't comfortable, you know, coming in yet. So they're able to be, you know, Andrea Taylor, who facilitates the group. There was a couple of ladies, you know, it's a small group and they're socially distanced, you know, inside. And then she had a laptop where other people were able to, from home, still participate in the group. So I think we're going to
streaming it. We'll see. I mean, everything we hope to eventually get back in person. I think things change every day.
It's hard to write. It's hard to say.
People, 100%, 70% capacity. You know, we just have to see, you know, how things go. And, you know, ultimately our goal is to come back in person in the fall, but we really don't know. Look, we didn't think a week before we got the word that we could do Fun Day Monday. We said there would be no Fun Day Monday, like we were talking about the virtual thing. And then, you know, the next week, everything started opening up. We were able to have more people attend outdoor events. And now we have 4 Fun Day Mondays. So I don't know. I think you're right though, Kristina. I think because with PI, it will always be a hybrid because people that can't come out or don't drive or for whatever reason, maybe we stream all the meetings going forward, you know, so it's looking up, but you know, we don't know from one day to the next, but
and I just think, you know, it's nice. And, you know, it's just having this kind of streaming technology component, you know, but besides COVID, you know, really for people who don't drive, you know, maybe they have difficulty leaving their home or they have, you know, or they're busy, you know, or they just don't want to be in prime. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons, you know, the fact that those people are now able to be connected, you don't want to now disconnect them, you know, from kind of the world and stuff. And it's just, that has been an amazing thing. And just to hear, you know, from people, and I love, especially too, on some of these Zooms and groups that we have, there's, you know, maybe a child lives with the parent who has difficulty, you know, they're a caregiver. And a lot of times they'll come on, you know, together. And it's just a nice thing to see, you know, in Little Square, you know, the mom and the daughter kind of there participating. Because, I mean, Beck and I could certainly say the amount of phone calls that we get from caregivers is certainly a huge percentage of calls that we get. So it's nice to just kind of keep everyone in the loop and informed with these. And that's what the advisory is great for, because it's a place where you can kind of get all the information, new updates, new programs, you know, new ideas, whatever it might be, you know, in those meetings. So it's great.
Well, it's that time. It's the countdown to the end of another incredible Project Independence and You show. And, you know, I want to thank all of our guests from Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and also Congressman Tom Suozzi, Otto, Lohse, and of course, Kristina Liu for pulling
and of
together
course you, my dear.
Terrific show. And thank you to me, Rebecca, and sending love and peace to John Ryan. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Hope you tune in next week. This is Project Independence and You on WCWP.org. Have a great weekend.